This is different. What's going on, everybody? Dr. Medic here. If you'd like to skip the intro and go straight to the video, I've created a timestamp so you can do so. You'll probably be able to understand how the video works, but if you're unsure, stick around for a minute so I can explain. That way nothing gets lost in translation. How I'm determining who of the 9 classes would be the best teammate in a sports setting is by these 5 categories here: insightfulness, sports IQ, skill, hype man, and approachability. The point system is a little bit unconventional. It works more similar to something like strongman. Each class is effectively ranked in each category independently and receives point from their placement in each category to come to a total at the end. For example, X class might rank 5th in sports IQ, while class Y ranks 6th. Class X will get 5 points from that category, Y will get 4, and we'll do that for every category until we come to a grand total. Each category can range from 1 to 9 total points. Just because a class ranks low or only gets 1 or 2 or however many points is not indicative of what they would rank on an absolute scale, and I have to make that very clear. They might be a 6 out of 10 overall, but if they're the least proficient out of all the classes, they'll receive the least amount of points. Now, how do the specific categories actually work? Insightfulness. Insightfulness, in my opinion, is wisdom and how good they are at helping you achieve success. Sometimes a teammate is a good player on the field, but they don't understand exactly how they're good, they don't know what they're doing to make them good, and they couldn't help someone else replicate it. Sports IQ has to do just with their ability to survey the field and know what to do with themselves in any given scenario. Skill is straightforward and is a little bit different than sports IQ, and it's a mix of athleticism and skill development. Would they be good at their craft? The reason this is different than sports IQ is it doesn't necessarily have to do with do they know positioning, and it's just can they perform the action they need to. Hype man is just how much energy they bring to the team, and approachability is how easy would it be to approach them when I need to talk to them or ask them a question, as sometimes teammates are just assholes, and those are not good teammates. I will also add what sport I think they would most likely play, but this is more for fun than anything and will not impact their overall ranking. Now that you understand, we can start off with our rankings. Let's go look at who got the worst total in the number 9 spot. The class that's in this spot ranked rather poorly in several categories and was a bit of a surprise to me when all things were said and done. I know a lot of people are going to hate this, and even I to an extent was saddened by the outcome. But all things considered, the number 9 spot with a grand total of just 14 points goes to Medic.
Boo! This is unacceptable!
I know, I was surprised too, and seeing as Medic is the face of my channel, I was extremely saddened. But here are the 5 categories, and when you put it out like this, it makes a lot more sense. He doesn't rank incredibly high in anything, and since this is more like a strongman ranking, this really hurts him in the long run. Insightfulness, he got a 5. This is mostly because I do feel like that Medic, while not the biggest sportsman in the world, though maybe I'm wrong, will generally have a grasp of what he's doing and will be able to pick up on things rather quickly. He is diligent in his craft, whatever it may be, so while I don't think he would be the best for wanting to pass on said information that he has acquired over time, he would be decent at being able to do so if you manage to get the information out of him in the first place, and we'll go more into that later. And that's where Medic scored the absolute best. For sports IQ, in my opinion, he was around the middle of the pack once again at 4, which gives him a total of 9 points. Medic is a maniacal evil genius. Okay, bit of an exaggeration. He's a psychopath, but he is for sure intelligent. But compared to some of the more athletic mercenaries, he'd probably be about average when it comes to sports. He's smart, for sure, like I said. But we've all seen the straight-A nerdy kid try to play kickball. He may ace every test, but he's a chicken with his head cut off on the field. I don't think Medic is that bad, but you get what I'm saying. For skill, oh boy. I gave him 1. Listen, before you dislike the video and call me various names on Twitter, potentially putting my life and my ego in danger, remember the system. If this was a scale of 1 to 10 and nothing else, I'd likely say he hovers around a 6 to a 7, slightly above average. I think Medic would be above average when it comes to athleticism in sports. I even made a video where I went over the athleticism, specifically of the TF2 mercenaries. Though, that's not how I'm choosing to score the mercenaries. Medic, in my opinion, while probably being physically strong and quite athletic overall, compared to the other 8 classes, I think he would do the worst. only a little bit worse than 2 other classes, but we'll get there. Also, I hate to say it, this low ranking does not make up the difference to put him any higher, so even if he got 2 or 3, it's not going to make up the difference. For Hype Man, I'd put him at 2. I think this one kind of goes without saying. I don't think this one would be the most controversial. I can think of one class that would be a worse Hype Man or Energy Man than Medic. Medic is great, fun character, and probably would be a solid shit talker. Probably more so to the official than anyone, but a shit talker nonetheless. Despite that, I can think of 7 other classes that would probably be better in the cheerleading squad side of things. 7 other classes that would bring energy to insane heights even if they were put squarely on the bench, because they just have more vibrant personalities. Medic does, but he doesn't really strike me as the kind to bring up the bench or to bring up the energy on a team as much as the other guys. Then we have the last category, approachability, where Medic scored a 2 in this slot also. While I don't think Medic would be a complete asshole in real life or anything like that, I'm thinking of this from my perspective. If I was to approach any class to talk to, whether it be about sports or just outside stuff, life, whatever it may be, I'm not tapping into deep philosophical stuff here either, just normal chat amongst teammates, as you do if you've ever played sports, you know how it is. Medic wouldn't be the last person I'd approach, but I feel like that because of his aggressive, off-putting nature and insane personality, he would be a bit of a chore to talk to for any extended period of time. You know those kids. I mean, you're kind of cool with them, you're chill with them, you don't hate them, but it's like the only time you're really going to talk to him is if you're doing a drill where you have to talk to him. Not to give too much away, but someone like Soldier or Heavy would probably be pretty easy to talk to in comparison to someone like Medic. They have that personality, and while someone like Heavy is Medic's pal, I feel like most people would like Medic as a person overall, as I feel like he would be still a good teammate, but he would be the second least approachable of the 9 mercenaries. This gives us a grand total of 14 points out of 45 for Medic, but to be fair, no one got 45 points as you would need a clean sweep, but he's the lowest by a solid margin, unfortunately. I would by no means not want Medic on my team. I think he would be fine, as I feel like he would be a great asset overall, but he's likely the worst of the 9 mercenaries, especially if you take away his healing properties. I mean, imagine Medic without the ability to heal. I mean, you know, just thinking about him at face value. And for what sport I think he'd play, once again, does not impact the overall ranking, but funnily enough, while not tall, likely being around 6 foot, 6'1", would most likely play basketball or be a skier in my opinion. No, I'm not saying basketball because of all those Medic balling memes I saw on my Instagram and For You page for several weeks at one time. No, but I do feel like because he's a German, he would probably be into those 2 sports more than anything. Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me what you think, but yes, Medic is the loser of today's video. Let's go see who takes second loser spot at the number 8 slot. The last segment was rough, feathers were likely thoroughly ruffled, and it's time to do it again. I actually had a tie, and instead of doing any shenanigan bull crap, as I'm sure the ones who I usually call upon are tired of hearing from me when it comes to TF2 stuff, I just said to myself, I'm an athlete, which one would I prefer on my team? One class had a few big positives, but some real negatives to go with it, while the other one was pretty solid-ish across the board. Not enough to be in the top 6, but better than the other. So I went with option 2. The other I'm talking about came in with 17 points, 3 above the previous spot. It's Spy.
Preposterous! I did all I could.
The Frenchman lives up to the stereotype of being a little bit unfriendly. He's gotta be from Paris. First, we have insightfulness, and Spy ranked fairly well. Spy has been shown to be quite elegant in the way he walks, talks, and the ladies he bags. It's obvious that his insightfulness is solid. He knows what he's talking about. I mean, he even helped Scout get a lady. Kind of.
Seduce me.
It's Scout. It's like trying to hammer in a nail with the thin metal end of a screwdriver. He got an 8. No, not a perfect 9. There is one class I put over him, but there are 7 I'd put below. Spy is a smart, cunning, conniving man that I'm sure if you were to listen to, you'd be able to learn a lot from him, even if he strokes his own ego just a little bit. That's where my praises for Spy just abruptly end. It doesn't get better from here. Sports IQ, really tough one. While Spy might be smart and decent in sports overall, especially in more niche technical sports, I don't think he'd rank very high in comparison to the other classes, so I gave him a 3. It's obvious Spy as a character has solid awareness and positioning. Not talking about Spy as a game, purely Spy as a character. He would probably be one of the best when it comes to positioning himself on the field. But when it comes to everything else sports have to offer, he might struggle a little bit because I don't think he's super into sports in the first place. Spy gives me much more of a rec tennis vibe than anything else, and I feel like he might watch chess matches rather than baseball games. Give Spy some time with competitive sports and his ranking would likely jump up. He's like a junior college football or baseball player who has a lot of potential but just can't seem to put it together yet. He doesn't have it all figured out, so I can't give him a higher ranking as there's a lot of other classes that just do better. Skill-wise, I think he'd be slightly better at a 4. It's pretty much the same thought process as Sports IQ, and they do overlap a little bit. He would be above average when it comes to being an athlete due to what he does for work and likely what he does in his leisure time, but many other mercenaries, once again, are just gonna be a lot better in the athleticism department. Spy so far hasn't done all that bad. 3 and 4 generally aren't great scores, but he got an 8 in the bag. That's where the good comes to an end. I'm not even going to do 2 separate segments, both hype and approachability. I gave him a 1. 2 reds on 1 card is pretty rough. Think Spy, think this. Does this look like much of a hype man? I think he's capable of cheering on his team, but compared to Scout, Soldier, Pyro, Demoman, Heavy, Engineer, Sniper, and even Medic, who only got a 2, he does significantly worse. I don't imagine he would be the most exciting person to have on a team. Approachability is kind of the same thing. I don't think Spy is a complete dirt clod. Regardless, Spy is a 40, 50-something-year-old Frenchman from the late 1960s that smokes cigarettes and quite literally stabs people in the back. While Spy could add some flavor to the team and is likely pretty knowledgeable, like I would not want Spy, he's going to be hard to approach and extract said knowledge. If you're purely business, Spy is probably your man, but if you want someone who you can build a friendly, meaningful, deep connection and relationship with, I'd look to any other class. There you have it. Spy with a total of 17 points comes in 8th place in today's video. Well, 7th or 8th, depending on your opinion about the next class, because we did have a tie, as I stated previously. Spy got the number 8 spot mainly due to his stats being the lowest of the bunch in a lot of different departments, with the exception of 1. As for sports, Spy would most likely be into. When it comes to solos, he'd probably be into something like fencing, though if he had to run duos or whatever, and he had to play in a team-oriented fashion, I guess, he'd probably prefer something like tennis. That just screams Spy to me. With that all said and done, let's go look at said tie in the number 7 spot. Let me just take a look at the list real quick to see who we got next. Yep, alright, that tracks. Okay. Not just a slightly better teammate than Spy, but does what Spy does better. I'm talking about Sniper.
Now that's downright embarrassing.
The last part was a joke. Kind of. Sniper and Spy scored the exact same with 17 points, but I feel that based on Sniper's numbers and the fact he didn't score the worst of the 9 classes twice, actually not at all, he deserves the number 7 spot a lot more than Spy did, despite Spy having an extremely high ranking in one category, where Sniper was kind of meh across the board. But let's go deep dive into that. Let's start off with insightfulness. You got a 2. Sniper is a professional, and I think he's a skilled marksman or sharpshooter. He's good at what he does, and this is obvious by the Meet the Sniper video as he walks us through his thought process. He's extremely dedicated to what he does. He'll be willing to wait hours in a single spot. But knowing Sniper's personality outside of that, and knowing the other classes' personalities, he'd be better than maybe one class, and I'm sure that's pretty obvious what class I'm referring to already. Nope, not that one. I'll talk about that one later. I'm talking about the other one. Would Sniper know what he's doing? Yeah, he wouldn't be a complete dunce, but he's also a bit more reserved, so likely a lot of that information would be in his cranium and wouldn't come out all that well. I shouldn't say reserved, as really none of the classes are. That's not any of their personalities. They're all extroverted and very vibrant characters, but he's more so than the bulk of the classes. Sports IQ, I gave him a 2. Overall, he'd be pretty average, but compared to the other 7 mercenaries, he just does not stack up. I don't really get that vibe from Sniper. That's just not really what he does. I couldn't imagine Sniper in some Sunday league grinding it out in his late 30s and 40s like some other classes might. You know, I feel like he's more reserved. He might go up to the mountains and hunt and just sit there for a couple hours. doesn't seem like an interest of his. He may be into shooting sports like archery, air pistol shooting, or skeet shooting with a rifle, or even a shotgun. Though when it comes to the definition of sport I'm using, which is more team-oriented, he wouldn't be awful, but he wouldn't do as well. Now we got skill. Skill's a 3. Once again, in a single-man sport that requires precision like singles tennis, golf, or one of the aforementioned shooting events, he'd be solid. He'd be really good and probably the best of all the classes in something like that. In a team sport like baseball, hockey, American football, soccer, football, cricket, because he's an Aussie, rugby, he wouldn't be a complete novice, but he'd likely struggle more than some of the other mercenaries. Even Spy, mainly because I imagine Spy's agility and additional speed would come in very handy a little bit more often. He may have a good eye seeing that he's a sniper, so his contact ability as a hitter in baseball and cricket, slapping ability in hockey, and hooker in football or rugby would likely be pretty good even amongst the other classes. But there is a reason in sports like baseball and football they rank you based on tools. If you're an athlete yourself, you probably already know what I'm talking about. How many tools do you have? I'm not sure what it is for football. You'll often hear about a 4-star, 5-star recruit, but as a baseball player myself, I could tell you what they are. They usually rank you off your ability to throw, hitting for average, hitting for power, your ability to run, and your ability to field. Sniper may have 1 or 2 of those, but I don't imagine he would be great across the board, and that's also knocking him down. Hype man. He'd be a solid asset to any team. I gave him a 4. Sniper does have some good quips, and like Medic would probably chirp the other team quite well, calling them all kinds of Aussie and Kiwi insults, just as he does in the game itself. Finally, approachability. He ranked rather well with a 6. Nothing much to add. He seems like a solid guy to talk to, whether it's about the game itself or life. I mean, that's Aussies in general. He's just the type of guy you'd want to get a pint with on the weekend during your day off. While he does seem to have 2 distinct personalities, one that's pure business, he also has a side of him that's kind of chilled and laid back. Something you for sure want in a teammate. Nobody likes somebody that doesn't care, nor somebody who cares too damn much. You know, that teammate with a stick up his ass that's constantly snitching and telling the coach, and he's just, oh god, I don't like those types of people. Sniper fits the mold perfectly because he does seem like he can flip it on and off at will depending on what the situation calls for, and that's a great quality to have. It's good to have a teammate that you can kind of hang out with whenever, just doing whatever, but also somebody who is about the business when it comes time to be about the business. There you have it. Sniper with 17 points, or 17.1 I guess, because he's slightly above Spy. Sniper is for sure a teammate I'd want on my team for the social aspect, but in a team sport, in a team setting, he may lack some of the tools required to be a key player, though he still would probably be pretty good. I'm sure he could improve with time, as that's also in Sniper's personality. He's very dedicated to whatever he wants to do. As for sport he'd play, he'd probably be best at something like cricket when it comes to a team sport due to coordination, but he'd probably prefer something like archery if given the choice. That was our first tie of the video, and now it's time for something different. We are technically out of the teens now because the class that is here squeezed out 20 points. He's also one of the most polarizing with 2 rather high scores and 3 very low scores, but despite this, it adds up to 20 points, putting this class in the number 6 spot. That class is none other than Pyro. The Pyromaniac. Would he be a good teammate? As long as he's on his meds, I'm sure he wouldn't be the worst, and that's why he's not at the number 9 spot today. Though, I should put off those praises for just a second, because the first 3 categories were not in Pyro's favor. First had to do with insightfulness, and it's Pyro. Pyro's been shown to be psychotic and easily distracted, especially when it comes to Angry Oxygen. That's why I'm only giving him a 1. This ranking is much closer to a true 1 than a lot of the other classes, where Sniper may be an overall 5 to 6 but only got 2 points because of his competitors. Pyro very well might be closer to a true 3 or 4. Significantly worse, but only gets 1 point less than Sniper due to the scoring system. I don't think Pyro would be a complete egghead. I don't think Pyro is incapable of having human thought and being able to communicate his thoughts, but if you've played sports or been in a group project while in school, I'm sure you've all run into the kid that it's just hard to get to focus on anything. It's like, dude, you gotta do your part of the project. ADHD mixed with a cocktail of 5-hour energy, monster, and crack. Pyro, while not a spaz, would be the hardest to get solid information out of. Like I said, I don't think it would be impossible. Pyro's brain isn't completely smooth, I don't believe, though it might have a couple other problems. However, he would probably be the hardest to get any substance out of. Sports IQ is similar. I gave Pyro a 1 for pretty much the same reason. I don't think Pyro is unathletic by any stretch of the imagination, which is why I also gave him a 2 in the skill category, beating out Medic. That sounded bad. A 2 still isn't bad, don't get me wrong. On the sports IQ portion, I think it mostly comes down to sports not being a primary interest of the Mass Maniac. He would likely just be the kid picking dandelions in the outfield, but would also be the one to most likely just run across the court without dribbling the ball once. He's strong, for sure, I've talked about that before, and he's not terribly slow, so I don't think it would be from a lack of talent, both his sports IQ and skill. I just believe those are so low because of a lack of interest more than anything. Now it's time to praise Pyro, because the last 2 categories went quite well for him. When it comes to Hype Man, he's a solid 7. I feel like Pyro just brings positive energy to the sideline. Unless you made him mad or you were the medic in the Meet the Pyro video. Pyro does have other emotions other than pure happiness, as is shown, but Pyro is probably that kid that's always smiling to some extent, even when his team is down by 10 in the 3rd inning or down by 35 in the 3rd quarter. He just wants to get food after the game. He's that type of dude. He just likes being there. Of course, he probably likes to win. He's probably competitive, but it's not like his world is going to end if the game is lost. Someone that would be good at cheering you up. Less because Pyro has mastered the mental game, but because nothing really gets to this guy. Just there for the vibes. We also have the first highest 9 out of 9 score with approachability. I mean, this one should be pretty straightforward. Assuming you aren't the aforementioned blue medic from the Meet the Pyro video, he's probably a solid dude that would genuinely look out for your best interest if you were a teammate of his. I can't say the same if you weren't, but I'm assuming if he's on your team, he'd be a solid dude. Even when it came to the poor medics, soldier, sniper, and heavy in the Meet the Pyro video, Pyro didn't even know what he was doing. He has a good heart, but his brain has just got a few holes and scorch marks on it. Not all there mentally, but what is there does care about his fellow teammates for certain. If Pyro was a little bit more of an athlete, he'd easily rank so much higher, but those first few things just keep him down. He was still able to beat Medic in just 2 categories. What sport would Pyro play? Honestly, I have no clue. I put down duo skating, but I don't know. Maybe hockey. Psychopaths play that game. Pyro is probably up for whatever. I can't see Pyro specifically liking a sport unless there's just something I completely look past. Put it down in the comments if you can think of anything. Enough speculating. Let's go look at the top 5. We made a little jump from Sniper and Spy to Pyro, however now we're basically clearing the Grand Canyon on a dirt bike like we're in a Red Bull commercial, as the next class we have to discuss received 29 points. Actually, the next 4 classes are all within just 2 points of one another. However, this class just barely missed the mark for the Big 3-0. It may come as a surprise or maybe not, I don't know, I'm not omniscient. It's Demo Man.
I'm drunk! You don't have an excuse!
Demo Man seems like a cool guy, and it shows in his stats. While he doesn't rank incredibly high in a single stat, unlike Sniper, he ranks rather well in pretty much everything across the board. So, insightfulness, I gave him a 6. Demo Man, while a drunkard, was surely an athlete in his younger years in between the 3 jobs he worked, or whenever he was cleaning Marasmus's mansion. Because of some of the other classes' expertise lacking in the field of athletics specifically, it allowed Demo Man to get a solid score. To be completely honest, I don't think he ranks much higher than any of the other classes below him, other than maybe Pyro. It's just that, because of his background, not like that, he probably does have some solid info and would be good at passing said information along. I'm pretty sure he would be rather insightful. Sports IQ is pretty much the same story, so I gave him a 6, mostly because of his build and what he does for work. It would be surprised if he never played sports in his life. I mean, just look at the man go. He's fast, while charging at least. He's got the Nessie's 9-iron, so he probably plays golf, or he's a washed-up ball player, and he handles heavy explosives. This dude played some kind of sport, even if it was just sandlot ball, so I have to give him a solid score, as a lot of other classes don't really come across that way. He would be pretty good at adapting to the rules of the game just because he's not a complete novice when it comes to moving his body through space. He's athletic, unlike some of those unathletic kids back in your freshman gym class. We all remember them, or for about 20% of the Team Fortress 2 player base, you probably know them currently. As for skill, I didn't give him a 6, but he did get a 5 because he's probably in the upper echelon of classes. I do feel like him being blind in one eye, or rather having a haunted eye socket, I guess, that turns his eye into a giant floating eyeball that shoots mini purple explosives at the... What the hell? Who the hell made this shit up? Anyway, it certainly hampers his ability to play at the max level, and if he had both of his eyes, he may edge an extra placement or two, but due to his eye patch, he gets knocked down just a little bit, as it's going to be hard for him to really adjust to anything that requires a lot of coordination. He may be fine as a linebacker or something like that, but if he was to be a hitter in cricket or baseball, or play doubles tennis, or try to play basketball, he may struggle a little bit with the whole depth perception debacle. Also, it doesn't help that the dude is plastered most of the time. Maybe that makes him better? If you can't play ball drunk, then you can't play ball, am I right? Hype Man, middle of the road. I give him a 5. Demolition Man in all his Scottish glory is probably a fun person to have on your team, even if you have trouble understanding him some of the time because he's slurring his words. He'll likely crap talk the referee and his teammates alike, but it's mostly in good fun. I don't feel like it's out of actual hate or vitriol. He's also likely to be the type of guy to talk to the opponent when he's on the base paths or lines up on D-line. Always have a few words to say and make sure that the bench never gets quiet. For this reason, I feel like his approachability and general likability stock is also quite high, so I gave him a 7 in that. There are 2 classes above him, and I'm sure you know who. One was Pyro, we just went over that a few minutes ago, but the other one shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. Much of the same thought process, fun guy, lots of wisdom despite being under 40 years old, and could be someone that is fun to drink with, as long as you stop at about 2 or 3. Hard to say what will happen after that. Demo Man would be an awesome teammate to have, which is why he got 29 points. He would be in my starting 5 for sure, at least when it came to picking teams for PE class. For what sport he'd play, he'd probably prefer something with less coordination focus, such as caber tossing, strongman, or maybe even rugby, but even that, I don't know. He would just simply run through people. So, with that closes off the bottom half. Kind of, there's no half and 9, but you know what I mean. The top half of the list, here we come. Wasting no time, we got a class that received 30 points, just barely edging out Demo Man, and also happened to be a good friend of Demo Man at one time. Yeah, it's Soldier.
This is not a camping trip, Sheila. This is war, and I love it!
Everyone's favorite Patriot has just cracked the top 4. America just doesn't stop winning. Insert joke about current global issues. Guns, honeys, and sport is the American way, and Soldier's got all 3 of those on lock. He scored very well in multiple disciplines, which is why I think he deserves the number 4 spot. Hold that thought, though, because we did have one somewhat bad ranking, and that just had to do with insightfulness, in which Soldier got a 2 episode 1 in. Soldier is a loudmouth American with red, white, and blue coursing through his veins, which he should likely get checked out, so he's got a good bit of sports knowledge in, for sure, no doubt. I'd assume solid ball knowledge in all 4 of the major sports found in the United States, though, as we know, Soldier is a bit interesting. Here's the thing, Soldier's character has certainly been flanderized over the... Wait, hold on, let me check. As the time making this video, September 10th... Okay, 17, almost 18 years of Team Fortress 2's existence. It will be 18 a month after this video goes live. TF2 is almost a legal adult. Let that sink in. He pays rent. Though, even with that being noted, Soldier has a few loose screws for sure. It may be difficult to get any good information out of him. However, I don't think he's such a babbling idiot that it would be incomprehensible. He's just a bit eccentric. As for sports IQ, he's a 5. I know I just glazed Soldier for knowing a lot about sports, but whether he could apply that knowledge universally is a bit up for debate. He is a generalist class, so the case could be made, though Soldier probably would be good at a few sports and positions. He's likely more of a brute force kind of guy, just a million reps and that's about it. Doesn't really care much about strategy, though, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. He knows enough to play, and plays hard, so he gets the scholarship, but he's a dude who definitely trains harder and not smarter. As for skill, it's a bit of a tough one. Soldier isn't super athletic, not unathletic, but being big doesn't mean you're athletic. That's what my old coach used to tell me, fat bastard. Hopefully he doesn't recognize my voice. That dude was 6'4" and well over 300 pounds. I am not stepping that guy even if he's in his 50s. What were we talking about again? Oh, yeah. Skill. Despite his athleticism being middle of the road, his ability to maneuver is likely solid. I know that sounds like a contradiction. It's not. He's efficient, but he's not malleable. Despite this, 8. He's one of the best, and I can think of one class that might have him beat. I'm sure you already know who I'm referring to. Soldier has mastered rocket jumping despite his ground speed being poor, which just proves to me that he can find a way to be pretty lethal on the field. Field, not pitch. We don't do pitches here. We have another 9 out of 9 with Hype Man. Soldier is a team leader type. He gets the team hyped up at all costs. He wants to win. All 206 bones and 207 in the morning breathe competitiveness. While his hype ability is high, his approachability is somewhere in the middle. While I don't believe Soldier is a dick in any way, I'm sure he can come off a bit harsh and rash if you don't know him all that well, as seen by some of his quips during gameplay. Still, wouldn't be the least friendly. I could think of a few classes. That wraps it up for Soldier's segment. He did earn all 30 of the points, and because I feel that his ability to bring up the team, approachability being pretty good, and his overall raw skill, he is superior to the classes below him. For sport he would participate in, I think there's multiple choices, but football seems like the right one. Would he like hockey? Hell yeah. Would he like basketball? Oh yeah, for sure. Baseball? Sure, probably. It's patriotic, though he probably would prefer football over all the 3 mentioned. Now, we must look at our podium winners. Let's go take a look at our bronze medal winner. I have taken a look at the list, and we found ourselves staring down yet another tie. This one is extra difficult because it's not like Spy vs. Sniper. One class ranks very well in a few categories, but still quite well overall, and the other one ranks a little bit better across the board, but doesn't specialize in a single category. Neither of them suck in any one given discipline, so I had to make a pretty tough decision. There was a lot that went into it, most of it being my personal opinion, based on people I know that have a lot of the same attributes. This one could go either way, and when you hear both, you'll see why it was so difficult to choose. I've decided to put the class that ranks well in productive categories above the other, so first, we'll talk about said other. That sounds bad. He's still ranked 3rd. In the 3rd place spot, we have a guy who certainly ain't from California or Washington. I'm talking about Engineer.
Let's do this Texas style. Start praying, boy.
Engineer made it into the number 3 spot today with 31 total points, which tied with the class we'll talk about next, but let's waste no time here. Insightfulness and sports IQ, he got a 9. I mean, come on, it's Engineer. While certainly being a metaphorical psychopath in his own way, and while emotions can for sure affect his psyche and his decision making, he's not perfect. He is often credited as being the smartest of the 9 mercenaries and being the most level-headed of all of them. He also knows what he's doing. Being an engineer and proud of what he does, he is capable of building complex machines and ones that are capable of building themselves even. You may not see the correlation between engineers and the 2 categories I just discussed, but it comes down to engineer being able to break things down and truly know what he's doing on an individual level. Really break it down to its simplest parts. He would probably be the best of the 9 classes in both these categories. He's smart, and I'm sure that if you got his gear turning, he would be the man to explain it to you. He's also a smooth talker who would be able to break it down in a way that even the average Call of Duty fan post-2020 could understand. I doubt any of my old Call of Duty subscribers are watching this, so I should be in the clear. Those were the 2 places where Engineer dominated the competition, and while I said that in a somewhat somber tone, don't get me wrong, he isn't terrible anywhere else. Skill, he would be a 6. He's good with his hands and he's a hard worker. He doesn't have those sissy soft hands. While not the most athletic, he would be able to get the job done through pure grit and gumption. The man is dedicated to what he does, and he'll put in the work. He would be the man I have no doubt about overcoming the odds stacked against him. I don't think I need to point out exactly what's stacked against him. Those categories he ranked very well. The only 2 spots he could improve in are Hype Man and Approachability, where he got a 3 in the former and 4 in the latter. Engineer is a cool guy, most of the time, as long as you're not messing with his guns. He can be competitive, and this is shown in his chants as the round starts in game, but despite his first initial oorah, he would be a lot more calm throughout the game. He may be a hothead sometimes, which also plays into his lower ranking in approachability. I do feel that once in a while that anger could boil over and any teammate could become a target. Most of the time, Engineer likely can bring it back to reality. I'm just saying that it could be a problem sometimes. And then with the whole hype man thing, I mean, yeah, once in a while he might have a good chirp, but overall, I just don't think he would be the best hype man. Despite this, while he didn't rank as good as some of the classes in these regards, he's not a bad man to have rooting for you. That will do it for Ingy. Totaling 31 points, he does exceptionally well in 2 categories, really good in 1, and not so well, but still okay in 2 of them. Engineer is not a guy I would want sitting in the stands. Instead, I want him in my dugout or on my sideline or in the field. Probably should have started with that one. Sorry, Engineer. Don't kill me, Einstein. Hopefully, I'll be able to calm down the mob. Let's go see who's in the number 2 spot today. Two classes left to discuss, and they actually had a pretty decent gap between them, though which is which. Some of you probably weren't even paying attention and have no idea who's left. The Merc in the second place spot, tying with Engineer, but doing a bit better in productive categories, taking home the silver medal tonight, received 31 points, and it's none other than...
Remember me? Yeah, you do. Don't you ever cross me again!
That's right, I doubt Scout's high placement is surprising in the slightest. He is the quintessential athlete of the squad. He is the Scout. Unlike some other classes, I won't lie, he was a bit polarizing, however, not to the extent of Pyro, for example. He ranked very well in 3 categories and alright in 2 others. Starting off with one of those just alright categories, he received a 4 in insightfulness. This shouldn't be too controversial. Scout is an egotistical asshole on occasion. I'm sure he'd be hesitant to give out any real good information, though I'm sure you could get it out of him, especially if he was tired of you sucking and watching you fail. While he didn't do all that great when it came to insightfulness, his actual game IQ is pretty damn high, so I gave him a 7. Scout is not an idiot, even though he is occasionally portrayed to be that way in Team Fortress 2 media, especially the comics. The comics are notorious for doing this. Scout can be a bit of a self-centered prick, despite being 150 pounds soaking wet, but he's more immature and loudmouth than he is intellectually stunted. Because of Scout's overt competitive nature, he would likely have studied the game and learned as much as he could. You do have some guys like Engineer who, combined with intelligence, could excel far more than Scout with his noggin advantage, though Scout, through pure grit and 6's experience, would have a solid sports IQ. Scout is definitely one of those guys who learned through playing and watching other people play, and not spreadsheets. He wasn't analyzing film, he was just basically brute forcing it. Similar to Soldier. He is also very skilled, that much is obvious. He is our last 9 of the day. I'm sure that's not even a surprise to anybody. I mean, hell, he can double jump, which is an insane skill to have in pretty much all sports, even the ones that aren't really jumping oriented like basketball or hurdles. I mean, stuff like baseball, it would be a pretty big advantage. He's fast, agile, and he's quick. Some of you may have laughed and went to the comments to mock the fact that I said both fast and quick when describing Scout. No, I'm not running out of adjectives. What I mean is that Scout is fast when it comes to top speed, but he's also quite explosive, so his 0 to 60 would be rather solid too. In conjunction with the fact that he uses the Sandman and Wrapped Assassin to launch projectiles with great force as a viable, a way to kill or gravely injure his opposition, Scout's got a lot of talent. Enough said. Hype Man would also be up there for sure. I gave him an 8. While he may say some ratchet stuff and some stuff that kind of makes your team look bad, he would be one hell of a teammate to have on your team anyway. He would get on your nerves sometimes, but I feel like he'd be a fun dude to have on your team because while he could be a dick, he's fully capable of having nice things to say to his teammates and being energetic. He would definitely be able to lift up his teammates. Don't get it twisted, Scout is not a bad dude by any means, unlike his father. But to kind of end off the reverse shit sandwich, it's his approachability. I know I said Scout is capable of being a nice guy, and he for sure can be. I'm not walking anything back. Still, he got a 3 in approachability. Again, mainly because other classes would be more approachable than him. I feel like if Scout's in a bad mood, you're going to for sure feel his wrath. Though if he's in a good mood, I'm sure he'd be kind of an uplifting guy, so his skill ranking can kind of go up and down. though he gets a 3 because I feel like other classes are more consistently good or consistently bad. That will end off the scout segment. He scored 31 points and did very well in the middle 3 categories and not terribly in the first and last one. I sound like a broken record, but I'd want Scout on my team, no doubt about it. You know, you need one of these guys on your team to keep everybody in check. Every single team has one of these guys for a reason. As for sport he'd play, I mean, it's pretty obvious. What do you think? It's not lacrosse. Seriously though, baseball, soccer, cross country, a lot of things that relate to his cosmetics, his occupation, his personality type. I think baseball's obviously in there because of his melee weapon. I mean, there's a lot of options for Mr. Massachusetts, mainly just because he is an athlete. In general, he'd probably be good at pretty much anything you put him into. Only one more segment to go, and if you've been counting, you know who's up next. I think I can hear him in the distance. Let's go see what's up.
You cannot beat me! I feel alive!
You heard it here, folks. Heavy Weapons Guy is the winner of today's video. Give it up. Great job, Fat Man. You'd be the first round pick of the Dr. Medic Team Draft, the highest honor that could be bestowed upon anybody. Maybe have an argument for the Nobel Peace Prize, but I think it's pretty close. Yes, Heavy takes the win today because he ranked well in everything. He doesn't have a single 9. He wasn't the best in any given category, but he was very good across the board. He basically a jack of all trades, which allowed him to win. Let's run this down one last time. Insightfulness, 7. We've all seen the Meet the Heavy video. While on the battlefield, he's a bit of a bambling bear with a minigun and poor English, but he's obviously not stupid. In a non-combative situation, which we've seen in the Meet the Heavy video, he seems well articulated. He has a doctorate in Russian literature, so I'm sure he'd be a good person to talk about any inquiries you may have, no matter what it is. Engineer and Spy did rank above him, and while Engie is kind of obvious, Spy and Heavy would be pretty interchangeable. It could be any given day for these two. Sports IQ is an 8. This decision mostly just came down to Heavy being a big dude who's obviously into sports and training in some kind of way. Look at Heavy's first cosmetic. It's a football helmet. He's got other cosmetics such as the gym rat and taunts involving heavy training, though I notice a distinct lack of cardio. And knowing Heavy's character, when he isn't yelling at enemies in broken English, he is calm and likely observant. Very calculated person, so I think his sports IQ, his ability to play the game would be pretty solid. Skill was a 7. For most of the same reasoning as before. You have guys like Scout who are obviously more talented, but Heavy is not too far behind. Skill is not just about athleticism alone, though that plays a huge role. Heavy is around the middle when it comes to athleticism, despite his larger stature, but when it comes to skills, Heavy with his size and sports IQ would be a threat on the field. He would know how to move himself. He would be pretty good at what he does. He'd be more of a specialty, but he'd still be pretty solid. Hype Man is the lowest of the big 5, but only by 1 point, as he received a 6. Heavy has been shown to be boisterous on the battlefield once again, and would be no different playing whatever sport he was playing. I do believe the Mercs like Soldier, Scout, and Pyro might be a little bit more bubbly and eccentric, but this is not to say it's a blowout. He's likely pretty close to Pyro, but because Pyro edges him out just a little bit, he gets 1 whole less point. Not that he really needed it, he still has quite a comfortable lead. Finally, approachability is top tier, just behind Pyro again, with an 8, because it's Pyro. Heavy can be imposing, and while he's not necessarily a big teddy bear, he cares for his friends and his acquaintances. He would be a chill guy to talk to off the field about whatever may be on your mind, but unlike Pyro, he'd probably have a lot more substance to actually add. I feel like Heavy would just be a solid dude all around. I don't feel like he would be little or anything like that. He just seems like a great guy. So I think his approachability would be one of the best of the 9 mercenaries. We've seen his welcoming nature in some of his quotes and general demeanor towards his teammates, especially Medic. And once again, if you want to go based on comics, we know that he's a family man. He cares about his people. So I think you'd be in good hands if Heavy was on your team. So with that all said and done, that's why Heavy is the winner of today's video with 36 points, 5 points above second place. It really wasn't even a contest. Had it been an overall ranking, it may have been a bit closer, but even then, I believe Heavy has just so many assets, it's hard to say anybody would be an all-around better teammate. Some may specialize, such as Engineer being better for his intellect, and Scout being a lot more athletic. He might be better in some situations, but Heavy is the full 300 plus pound package. As for sport he'd play, I tend to lean towards football and rugby due to his size. I mean, his first cosmetic was a football helmet, so I wouldn't believe that's too far-fetched. And then, of course, if you want to go with single sports, we're doing team sports for this video, that's what it's been about. But if you want to go for single sports, he'd probably be into something like strongman, once again, or maybe even powerlifting. Though I'm leaning towards strongman because, I mean, it's heavy, come on. That will do it for this month's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of the video by leaving a comment down below. Did you like it? Did you not? What's your opinion? How would you rank them? I'd love to hear from you. I will see you later.